Yes, sir. We are live in the flesh. Balling like always because we are WARR Media, and this is another episode of Running with WARR with a little bit of a different twist because Kyle can't host this time. So it's your boy that's hosting this mug. Joshua M. Hicks. We got Drew. We got Chris. And we got a special guest who is, of course, a friend of the show. He's definitely not a stranger. Shaun Davis, ESPN 1000 producer. And man, let's just say that before we went online, we had a very interesting story time regarding all this crazy snow. And as much as I love Chicago, I'm really realizing this snow and this cold ain't for me, bro. It's not for me.
You bailing out already?
Man, look, when you have to step out in all that snow and it's -degree weather at 6 a.m. to start your car up every day, it's brutal. You can forget it. You can forget it.
Like, when does that pendulum, because you guys are younger than me, right? So when does that pendulum start to swing the other way? It's like we all grew up in Chicago. We grew up on the bus stop or riding the bus and just trudging through the snow to get to school, and you become numb to it, right? You're just a Midwest kid. Like, you hit adulthood. When does that pendulum start to swing where you're like, man, this is some bull right here? Around what?
A couple of years ago for me. Around that time, you discovered that playing on concrete ain't the best for your knees. That's the time. When you get up in the morning and something hurts for no reason. Oh yeah,
that's it. That's the time.
That chapter is done.
Low key, I still would rather play outside than inside. No matter what. I'll have to get the new hip or something before that changes.
Man, now it gets to the point where you even look at all that snow, and back when you was younger, you would think like, oh, it's about to go down. Tackle football in the snow. You look at that snow and you're like, you know what? What was I thinking?
Yeah, I got to drive in this. Yeah, nah.
Right. They sold us on the fairy tales growing up, man. You got the snow and it looks all pretty and it's whiteness and all this other stuff. Now you're looking at it like, this is some bull, man. You can't even. You got to drive and all this. You got to shovel snow.
Right.
And nobody told me shoveling snow was fun.
I guess when it becomes like life.
I used to think shoveling snow was fun.
Yeah.
Either way it goes, this cold ain't for me. So if you see me go out to the West Coast or somewhere south eventually in my life, you know why. But one thing that is warm in our hearts is obviously the sport of basketball and the NBA, which is what we cover. And it's been some interesting topics as of late that's popped up in the NBA for sure since we last linked up. But this specific topic is new because the NBA just announced their All-Star Weekend starting lineups, as well as the All-Star Weekend festivities that's going to be taking place with the All-Star Game happening March 7th in the ATL. Yeah, oh boy, this is going to be something else because now you're not talking about, in a pandemic, you got COVID taking place and everything, but now you're talking about Magic City, you're talking about strippers, you're talking about Lou Williams wings, you're talking about potentially Karen being courtside. Is this worth it? I mean, is it really all worth taking the risk to just basically have an All-Star Weekend, which ain't even a real All-Star Weekend? Because All-Star Weekend for me isn't just about the games. It isn't just about the slam dunk contest and 3-point contest and all these other festivities that take place. It's the events around it. Like it's the networking. It's the interviews prior, the events and the interviews that you get to cover prior. It's the parties. I mean, it's the stuff that makes those experiences so much fun. And we just had V-Day weekend, which is normally when the All-Star Weekend would take place. So V-Day weekend was cool, but it felt kind of lonely still, just because All-Star Weekend ain't there no more. You made you feel even more lonely. If you thought you was lonely then, you was really lonely when you didn't have basketball. So, I mean, this All-Star Weekend stuff, I think this is just too rushed. Not necessary. We're in a pandemic. Why can't we we're even blessed to even have these games right now. So to even do something like this, I think it's the most. But I know we talked about this last week between Drew, Chris, and Kyle, but I want to drive this conversation to Shaun. Yeah, Shaun, go more in depth on your input as far as this All-Star Weekend, what's taking place, and how the NBA, if you believe the NBA is really playing a slippery slope, as like they have been as of late, trying to get all this bread that they possibly can through all these events, when at the same time they're putting a lot of people at risk during a big event like this.
I think it was Tobias Harris I heard today when he was talking about, as the players, we understand the business side of this decision because they are in the business relationship with the CBA, with the league. Everybody else, I didn't get a chance to go to any of the festivities when the All-Star Game was here in Chicago, but I did get an opportunity to go to the Tech Summit. And I advise all three of you guys, like, I know the dunk contest and all that stuff, but like, if you can get invited to that Tech Summit and the people you get to rub shoulders with, talk to during intermission, former players, former greats, movers and shakers, man, I had an opportunity to have like a 5-minute conversation with Steve Stout. And I mean, that's the type of stuff that they want to happen. Like, they don't want to miss that opportunity to get all the movers and shakers on the business side together to have those meetings. And that's why a lot of GMs, be honest, the All-Star Game for Chicago, I think that was the weekend that the Bulls brass did a lot of their homework to figure out what the next step would be. Like, that's when they found out like how the league looks at the franchise outside of Chicago. And ultimately, that's when Jerry and Michael decided, okay, we need to move on and make some changes in the front office in order for us to change the narrative about an organization. So the business side, there's a lot that goes on that a lot of people don't see because we're so focused on the glitz and glam of the weekend with the rookie game, skills competition, dunk contest, and the game itself. The NBA, is looking at the fact that, what? It's not just about the TV money, but there are so many other things that happen, whether it's the Tech Summit, whether it's ownership meeting with sponsors and other deals being brokered during the All-Star Weekend, that I think Adam Silver feels like this needs to happen. We need this weekend to happen. And it's a little bit bigger than just, having a game, having a dunk contest. So that's the way I see it. And I just brought that from my own experience here in Chicago, just seeing the other side of it and how really big it was, seeing the president of TikTok and seeing Jeff Bezos up on stage talking about how TikTok was about to take off because it was truly in its infancy. And this was during the NBA All-Star Game Tech Summit. And then you look up 2 months down the line and it's like, dude, like, it was made for children, but adults took over and just it skyrocketed. And I think at that time it was still in like its beta form. It hadn't even fully developed. So, it's just the opportunity for the business side of the NBA and the partnerships to kind of blossom and take things to the next level. And I think that's what Adam Silver is looking at a little bit more than just, picking an all-star team and having people on the court. I do. Mayor Bottoms down there in Atlanta, I understand her fear. It's one thing to have it open and manage Atlanta. And I call them the AT aliens. I don't know the correct name for, residents of Atlanta, but I wouldn't have people outside of Atlanta coming in mass. I know a ton of people that went to the Super Bowl from Chicago. And that was the NFL. So I can only imagine, the way the NBA is connected to us and our culture. I can only imagine the number of West Siders and South Siders that are going to be going to Atlanta. They had to stay in hotels in Tampa. They go to Atlanta. We got folks down there. We got cribs to stay at. It's much cheaper flight. So that's just tailor made. It's going to be it's going to be dangerous, man. Josh, your sentiments, what you were talking about, it's going to be a dangerous situation from a health standpoint. But, the NBA from the business standpoint is willing to take that chance.
Yeah, I'll just say, when Adam Silver and the NBA first brought about the idea of the bubble in Orlando. I wrote about it and how it was a poor idea and it's not worth it. They proved me wrong. This is a different situation. But I guess, Adam Silver's a smart guy. So I'm sure he's going to have all the precautions in place or whatever he can put in place to make sure everybody's safe. But we'll see, man. We'll see. You have experience that the three of us don't in terms of just the capacity of the whole weekend itself, not just like you just said, the game and the events. But man, I hope this doesn't turn into something worse, something bigger, some sort of super spreader event, man.
Yeah, I just think it's a bad idea. The stuff that you're talking about, even if they don't have that, if they don't have the off-court All-Star Weekend festivities, it's a bad idea because you have so many people down there for an event, and that means that those people in some way, shape, or form are going to connect or want to connect, whether it's inside the boundaries of what they've been given or not. That's, we even saw it in the bubble with Josh's favorite player and the chicken wings, with James Harden doing his thing. We didn't hear about it, but you know what? I'm gonna take it back because I don't think we ever heard anything about James Harden. But I just assume that he was one of the cats who was on his Bumble, on his Tinder, on his I don't know what the dating app is for high profile celebrities. I know it's out there, but I can't remember what it's called. But All-Star Weekend, I think this is a dangerous point for the people in the country all together, because vaccination has started and the warnings have come up from medical professionals, doctors who are on the front lines of this thing. We're not out of the woods yet. There's new variants around the world that are coming. Countries that thought they had things under control or retightening restrictions. And I think the danger is in the United States that where the economy is so driven by consumer capitalism, consumer capital, where people have to spend money for other people to make money. The emphasis is to put on this All-Star Weekend so the league can generate more of that consumer capital. 2, people are tired. It was already a long winter before all the snow. Now people are like even more feeling even more trapped, and they're going to want to get out and go wild, I feel like. And that puts things in a dangerous spot too, because we're not out of the woods with this virus yet. So we could have lost the All-Star game and been okay. If you want to vote guys as All-Stars so that they can get their possible performance bonuses, incentives, by all means, do that. Do that. If you, like we said the last week, you can get on the All-Star game and you don't have to necessarily play. It's fun to play, sure, maybe your first or second time, but you don't have to play. I can't see that as anything but a plus. And I don't see this game or this weekend as anything but a possible negative.
And sometimes I challenge people to think like an executive, right? So Adam Silver knows that the NBA has pockets it has to win because the NFL is king. And with Deshaun Watson still being out there, just lingering the entire offseason, the pockets that the NBA has is NBA Finals, draft. Right after the NBA draft, it's time for football. People are rearing up. Camp is starting. It's going into games. And they know that no one really pays attention to the first half of the NBA season. But what jump starts everything? All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend revs everything up leading into the spring and into the playoffs and the little pockets of time that they have to dominate when the NFL really isn't dominating. So, I'm just trying to look at it from the mindset of the league office, them feeling like they still have to take advantage of certain things. Ratings are down for the games. So from a business side, they're sitting in these boardrooms and they're saying, man, how can we get these ratings up? Is it profitable for us from a rating standpoint to not have the lull of no All-Star Weekend and we're not playing games and players are just getting a week off? I mean, that goes into play and that goes into the thinking. Chris, I agree with everything you said. I totally agree. But just seeing the inner workings and the other side of things and just how important that side is to Adam Silver, like the for what the main event for us is the after party for Adam Silver. Right? That's the main event for us, the fans. For Adam Silver is like, okay, Saturday night All-Star game, man, I'm just coming to have drinks and kick it now. Because I took care of my business on Thursday and Friday at this summit with the movers and shakers. Like, that's the main reason I came down here. And now I can go celebrate all the bread I just made. That's really the way. And I think more than likely, of course, they won't have those sessions in person, but you best believe they'll have something virtual. I can almost guarantee that they're going to have some sessions that are virtual and continue on brokering those deals and making things happen.
No, that's real. That's a very good perspective that you gave, Shaun, because even last year in Chicago, when the All-Star Weekend was here, even though the All-Star actual basketball events was very well done per se, the comment of like the different tech events or the different it's personal one-on-one sessions or these big events that took place that was like around the Tech Summit, or people getting involved with different groups and promoting the work that they do and things of that sort. There was a lot of connectivity and bread throughout those events. I only went to maybe one or two of them. I was fortunate to go to a couple of those things. And Shaun's right, man. All the heavy hitters were in that joint trying to make moves. And making moves is like ideal for us because that's extra connectivity. You know what I mean? We're trying to build our brands, and when we build our individual brands, you connect with those top tier talents and those top tier reps. That changes the whole narrative for how your future really ideally could look. And for that to be connected to the NBA as a whole, it makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of tech guys even in the NBA that are big on these type of things. The Andre Iguodalas of the world, Steph Curry's of the world is trying to get into those things. Like, this is what they want to do, not just in the league right now, but post careers. And a lot of NBA players are moving towards that wave. So if they want to be part of that game, like Shaun said, they're gonna have those big events where not just Adam Silver's making money, but now these NBA players are making additional money. So it makes sense. It makes sense. And unfortunately, it has to happen in a situation like this where everything is so up in the air because of how we respond to this virus that's so deadly. But yet at the same time, Shaun's right. Money talks. Money talks, BS walks.
Yeah, I mean, it's a microcosm of just society in general and how we've dealt with the pandemic as it's going on, man. It's like, we'll sacrifice our pockets for a little while, but at a certain point, it's time to earn that bread. Like even the guys that have pushed back, the LeBron James, the Giannis Antetokounmpos, the De'Aaron Foxes of the world, if he's going to be selected as a reserve, it's only going to be so much pushback before they say, okay, let me toe the line and we're going to do this anyway. Even myself, I'm not going to lie. Like I'd be hypocritical if I would say that, I don't want them to play, but then I'm not going to watch the game. I'm still going to watch the game. I'm going to watch it all. It's just watching from afar and knowing the potential dangers that are involved and kind of measuring it out. But to your point, at the end of the day, money has to be made. That's the whole reason why that bubble was played,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the Aaron Fox I think he's Jordan Brand. I think he's Jordan Brand. And you guys were here, man. There was so many shoe events around Chicago last week. I mean, the check is already cut. But this is how the companies get that money that they paid out to these guys back.
Yeah.
All-Star Weekend, off-season, coming, doing these events, sponsoring these events. And these are partners of the NBA, so, they depend on the NBA, but the NBA depends on them. So ultimately, look, as Chris said, man, none of this adds up to the importance of people being vaccinated and us continuing to fight the fight to make sure that we defeat the coronavirus and, the different types that are popping up, whether it's the one from Great Britain and the one from South Africa. Look, man, we just need to continue to adhere to protocol and keep each other healthy. because ultimately we're accountable to each other.
Mhm.
You know, in this fight, we have to care about each other. You know, I have a daughter out in California, man, at school, and I scream at her through the phone every day, like, "Yo, who is that? Like, who are you with? Like, you're supposed to be in your room. Like, where are you?" I'm screaming this to get her to understand, like, "Yo, I understand you're 19. I know what it feels like to feel like you're invincible. I've been there, but hey, this is real. All right, and it's bigger than you." So, man, like Chris said, let's take care of one another, man, and ultimately we can get on the other side of this thing, and we can open back up and just get back to some type of normalcy in the near future.
Right.
No, that's real. I just hope that as the NBA is going through these sponsorships, they look at Magic City and Lou Williams and those wings. That being said,
Josh is getting paid per Lou Williams mention.
Hey.
I'm just saying, if Lou Williams want to go that deep to go leave a bubble to go get some wings, look, you better have him make him a sponsor. Shoot, you in this city now? He ain't got to go nowhere. He right next door.
From experience, I was there in 2004, which was Michael Jordan's last All-Star game in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with my brother, and Atlanta is like one of the worst cities to have an All-Star game in. And that sounds crazy. Wait, that sounds crazy, right? But their downtown is mid. It's really small for a major city, and everything is spread out.
Yep.
And the expressways are really bad, so that the commute, like, you have a great time once you get to the venue, but getting to the venue is like, man, but that's Atlanta. You know, that's Atlanta. But yeah, you know, if you're looking for, I think the best, and I have a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick with Paul Pierce for the 2003 All-Star game. Man, that's for another time. I still hate that dude. I've hated that dude since 2003. It didn't matter what he did on the court. I'm like, you're a bum. Like, you're a bum.
Oh man, let's transition to the actual lineups for All-Star Weekend that's supposed to be happening in Atlanta. You got they just announced the starting lineups today. For the West, you have Luka Doncic, you got Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, you got Kawhi Leonard. And then for the East, you got Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid. I mean, for the most part, some of them were givens, but at the same time, do you believe there's any snubs? Do you believe someone else should have been a starter compared to the ones that got selected? And if so, and why?
You know, I want to drop this first because we were going to talk about it last week and we didn't really get a chance to get into it too much. But man, Julius Randle's numbers are really, really good. If it weren't for him playing in the West, hold on, let me make sure I'm right. He's with the Knicks, right? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I was looking at his overall numbers, and I think I shook it out to in terms of starters. I had Giannis, Zach. Oh gosh, I can't. I'm trying to pull it. The East is always so bruh that it's hard to remember. But there was somebody that I couldn't put him over, but it was really difficult. It was really difficult. So if there's anybody who I think just the numbers that he's averaging for a Knicks team that is about as relevant as they've been in 4 or 5 seasons, and that's not saying much in the East, you know, a relevancy is hovering around 500 for that conference. But he's showing that promise that we saw all those years ago. I've always liked him. I didn't understand why he kept kind of bouncing from team to team after that first injury with the Lakers. And now I think is his time to shine, and he's really putting it on. I think you have an argument for him as a starter.
Yes, I mean, you know, that's the rich man's Anthony Mason there, man. For real. For real. But I mean, it's only so many spots, and we got to remember that these starters are strictly fans. So I myself have to go back and think about when Penny Hardaway started getting injured, and I was still voting for him to be a starter. You know what I mean? So certain things is not going to make sense. You said Zach LaVine and Julius Randle should be starting. I'm not mad at that, but come on, man. Who are you taking out of that 5? For me, Jaylen Brown's got to be in there. I'm putting him in to start for the East, and I'm taking Bradley Beal out of that starting 5. I'm taking Bill out. Let him be a reserve. If we're just keeping it strictly starters, I'll probably put Mitchell in for Doncic in the West. Like, these guys got the best record in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken, man. They've been going on a crazy tear. They're getting a lot of contributions. Mike Conley's playing well, but I believe like the face of that team is still Donovan Mitchell. So for him not to be a starter that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest snub of the starters.
Man, you know what? What Drew just said there, like, makes a lot of sense. I love Jaylen Brown as a pick, especially the way he's played, what he's been able to do. The whole thing's kind of steady with Tatum being out due to COVID, Kemba being out early in the season because of his knee. Dude, he's definitely, in my opinion, right there for most improved player, because the jump he's taken is like, yo, okay, I see you, young fella. You know, we talk about narratives, right? And it plays into like fan voting. Like, this narrative for Bradley Beal really started last year because, I mean, what he was doing and the way he was scoring last year, even going into the off season, where it was kind of like free Bradley Beal. That was like the move. Like, are they going to trade him? Are they going to get rid of him? And fans had empathy for him because he was just going out there playing hard on a horrible team. And he comes in this season and he just continues to produce, leading the league in scoring. And like, that wave just got bigger and bigger. And I just think fans kind of rallied around him and just kind of like voted him in, like, yeah, Bradley Beal. Because I think he got left off the team last year totally, right? I think, yeah, he was one of the snubs that got left off the team, you know, the way he was playing last year. So I think you started to see that a little bit. I mean, we saw Trae Young get voted like almost with the most votes last year, like only second to LeBron. And this year he was like 5th or 6th or something like that. I think he was behind Zach LaVine in voting. So you see those trends with fan voting. You know my snub. Look, if you listen to A2S, you already know where I'm going. All right. Look, let me tell you something. Dame Dollar is a starter. Y'all can take, look, he has played better than Luka Doncic this year. Luka Doncic stunk it up for the first 12 games of the season. Stunk it up. There's no way you can say Luka Doncic deserved to be a starter over Damian Lillard. And after CJ went down, the way he picked that team up and put them on his back, man, stop. It's going beyond disrespectful right now. Look, Steph, I get it, because I believe Steph has done the same thing. He's put Golden State on his back. He's had an incredible season. Our backcourt should be Steph and Dame. That's it. Luka, look, bro, I love you. Start bringing it the first 12 games. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
It took you the first 10 games just to lose weight and get in shape. That's facts.
Can I just say this subliminal coast-to-coast battle between, not coast-to-coast, but Western Conference battle between Steph and Dame is, I like it, man. I really do.
I love it.
You know what?
It's like Drake and Kanye, or Drake and Kendrick just sending subliminal shots to each other.
And if you love Dame, because it's all about preference, right? Mm-hmm. Like the two guys I do my podcast with, they prefer Dame.
Oh yeah,
right.
I see BT always.
I haven't cast my die either way. The only thing I have said is, if Dame had played with KD, he would have a title. That's it. That's the only thing I said. Mm-hmm. If he played on Golden State with KD, he would have a title. maybe multiple titles. That upsets people. They feel like I'm disrespecting Steph. I was like, I'm not disrespecting Steph. And then I have to ask the question: if you take away KD, what is Steph's legacy? It's a great legacy, but his legacy is he changed the game with the 3-point shot, right? He split an NBA Finals with LeBron, right? You gotta bring up the bad. He choked in a Game 7 at home, right, on a 73-win team, and he's the greatest 3-point shooter we've ever seen. Like, his legacy is still dope. So just because I'm trying to give some love and give flowers to Dame, I don't take it as disrespect for Steph. Like, I love Steph, because when you put me in that position, then I have to be honest about Steph. It's like, okay, you're saying Steph is all this, but if you take away KD, he has 1 title. That's it. And if Dame was playing with KD, he probably has 2 titles. It has nothing to do with which one is better. I'm just saying there are about 3 or 4 point guards. If you put them on that Golden State team, they would have been good enough to win the championship. That's all I'm saying. That's it. Give Dame Lillard his love, man. Stop being disrespectful, dude. And just because we showing another love to a brother, just because we showing the darker hue some love, doesn't mean we hating on the lighter hue.
That's the nowadays, though. You can't give another man flowers without it being seen like you spitting on Sean.
Absolutely.
I do know one thing though. Dame Dollar is
I'm
Steph at rapping.
With you, Sean.
He said rap.
Dame Dollar. Dame Dollar. That's all I gotta say. Dame Dollar. Now, hearing what you guys are saying, I do think that Donovan Mitchell should have been a starter.
I can rock with that.
What he's doing in Utah is ridiculous, man. Utah has only lost 2 games in the last 22, 23 games?
Yeah.
They are going crazy as the conference.
They are gone 20-1 over the last 21 games.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. And Donovan Mitchell's leading the way, man. You can't ignore what he's doing over there. But at the same time, too, Dame Dollar, that's just nasty. Dame Dollar is like a whole nother level right now carrying this team. Dropping almost 40 plus a game on average just to keep him afloat. Like,
I mean, he lost CJ and Nurkic in 6 days.
Yeah.
A span of 6 days. And just pretty much is like, okay.
It's weird because they got off to such a slow start and really didn't hit their stride until CJ and Nurkic went down. It's strange, man. But that gives credence to what you just said, Sean, about Dame and Dame time and just how awesome this dude is, man. For whatever reason, is not necessarily thought of in the same echelon with the Steph Currys of the world, but he needs to be.
And I don't know how you guys feel. Do you feel like the Portland organization pushes for him to be out front? Like, I just really don't see any love from the organization really to get him out there and to get him at the top notch and just get him the love that he deserves, man. Like, you see it, Golden State put Steph out there constantly. They constantly put him out there. And it just seems like he's just stuck.
I think that Portland just isn't Golden State, especially the Golden State that we've come to know in the middle Steph Curry era, right?
Right.
This is San Francisco, Chase Center, billions of dollars Golden State. Portland just isn't that. Yeah. Portland is cool. My partner's out in Portland, and she says that there's businesses moving there, moving people there to work remotely. People are trying to go to that area now that Seattle and San Francisco are kind of been overflowing. And Nike's there. Nike's in Oregon. Nike's in Portland. Nike's in Beaverton. But otherwise, it's still Portland. It's still real crunchy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's still real Hyde Park co-op.
Okay.
And the Warriors just have that. I think once they got the ownership group that they got in and started to build that team and just take in all of that Silicon Valley type money, they have the luxury to do that. Plus, Steph is just the transformational face of the latter 2010s NBA. by which I mean to say analytics. Dame embodies that too. But man, I don't want to go into a thing of the look, but if you talk about it in that sense, you know, the two guys to us don't look that different, right? But Steph is kind of like, he golfs, he's Aisha's doing cooking shows, he's got his daughter in there. It's almost kind of that Iverson thing. Allen Iverson touched a generation of basketball fans, but the NBA didn't want to put him out on the forefront because of who he was, how he talked, how he looked, right? Dame isn't nearly Allen Iverson, but he's never been one to just like say, hey, I need these guys. Hey, this is my brand necessarily. Like Dame is going to do his music, but because he wants to do his music, he's not trying to do this, that, and the other, really. Even if he goes on shows, even if he does commercials, he's still just kind of like, his brand is, I'm stoic, right?
Right.
That's who Damian Lillard is. So even though he is part of an analytics wet dream just as much as Steph, shooting 38-foot threes, he's not going to be thought of as Steph in the same way. One, because he wasn't on that Warriors team that just destroyed the league. He wasn't in and out, crossing over. He didn't make Chris Paul fall down. It's just the optics, I think, in a sense, and then it's just the organizations as well. I will say that I didn't mention Dame because I thought that he was a starter. I must have just looked over it because I was like, oh yeah, Damian Lillard had a back-to-back 60 games. He's starting, right? I couldn't fathom a universe where people didn't vote him as a starter.
I mean, it's the winning too. The winning makes a difference too, man. I mean, Paul has to go from being everybody's favorite dark horse to actually advancing in the playoffs, man. I think that's going to make a big difference too.
I'll even take it a step further. I think it's the background. I think backgrounds play a role too, because they both came from small colleges. Damian Lillard came from Weber State. Steph Curry was at Davidson. But Steph Curry has a whole father who made a living in the NBA being a three-point specialist, which is what Steph Curry just mastered and took to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And on top of that, his brother's already doing the same thing and killing it in Philadelphia right now, doing the same stuff. Damian Lillard didn't come for that type of background. So his rise to stardom, especially in the league and where he's at, is going to be, for me, that much more unique because Steph Curry technically has a leg up. He's been seeing this since he was a kid. He's been around this since he was a kid.
No.
Damian Lillard didn't have that. So since the NBA is accustomed to knowing who Del Curry is, who he played with, what his role was in the league, and seeing Steph at a young age grow into this, it's easier for the NBA to recognize compared to Damian Lillard, who has the story like everybody else. You come from the hood, single parent household, and you do everything you can, even from a small college, and go from there to making big dollars in the NBA and being the face of a franchise. It's a completely different upbringing. So I think that plays a role too, because like Shaun says, we go by narratives. For the NBA, the main narrative, aside that's known for them, that helps bring that type of big time money, is the Steph Curry narrative, because he's already part of the brotherhood. He's already part of that fraternity, because his pops was part of that fraternity in a very notable way. Compared to Damian Lillard, didn't have that quite yet. He doesn't have that. He has to build that.
You say that like before the knee injury, like one of the top 5 narratives coming into this season was the return of the Splash Brothers. Mm-hmm. Like, and the opening of the Chase Center. Like that was, the NBA is like, yeah, we need that. Mm-hmm. We need this new Chase Center, and we need the Splash Brothers to be out front and one of the biggest narratives. So I totally agree with you, Josh, when you talk about that and how important that is. And then, you know, one other thing for me, Above the Rim, right? Classic, cult classic. We've all seen it, right?
I was just watching it yesterday.
Like, what's the kid that already had the scholarship to North Carolina?
Montrose?
Yes, Montrose.
Oh, on the other spot?
Right?
Montrose.
So Montrose is like Steph. He's already established. Like he's coming into that rivalry game good. His name is established, right? He's the show. Cal is trying to make his name, right? He's trying to have a good game just so Georgetown will finally give him a scholarship. late in the process. That's kind of like Dame. Like he's just scuffling and late to the party, late to the narrative party, like you said, Josh. And he's just trying to get into that area where he's accepted as one of the top-notch players. And now he should be in the MVP running. He should be. As it currently stands right now, he should be in the MVP running. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 3. That's just my opinion. But what he's done up to this point, like he should be in the MVP running. He should be a starter in the All-Star game. And his name look, you know what? I'll say it. Hey, Dang, look, bro. Forget rapping for like commercials. Like you want suitcases? We got plenty of suitcases for you here in Chicago. We can make this work, right? You can come join the Bulls, right? We can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
We can make this work. Like if you want some love, this city will show you love.
No doubt.
You put in work like that for us, we'll show you some love.
And we'll make sure he has unlimited studio access where he can do his Hulu Live Sports and his album creations.
Right.
But I want to transition now to the political side of the NBA, because as of recent couple of weeks, I know last week the NBA pretty much condemned the Mavericks for not playing the national anthem for the first 13 games of the season, and now they've put in this policy saying that before every game, all the players have to play the national anthem. But even Draymond Green, as of recent, after that came out and was like, yeah, this whole role of ownership and how ownership treats its players has got to change, because as players in a player movement, in player-driven league, especially a superstar league like the NBA, it's becoming more of trying to make it more like a relationship than an actual business. And the business side of things is, according to Draymond Green, isn't done correctly, especially when it comes to the treatment of his superstars. I, in a sense, do agree with that, especially in the NBA, because the NBA is a legit player-driven league. They thrive off of superstars. They thrive off of top-tier talent, making moves in the league, not just on teams, but on and off the court. But at the same time as well, this kind of goes back to the NFL narrative, right? Where the NFL owners were like, no, we own you as players. We are owners. You work for us. So therefore, since we're signing your checks, you do what we say. And that's the unfortunate part of business that, especially in the African-American community, we struggle to deal with, because we don't want to work for nobody else, but we also don't know how to be owners either. It's an unfortunate double narrative that, quite frankly, we don't understand. And in an entertainment realm like sports, Black ownership is very hard to find. There's only one Black owner that we know even exists, and that's Michael Jordan. And that's because he's literally Michael Jordan. Outside of that, there's no guarantee you're going to get another African-American owner in any of these top-tier major sports. So how do you find that does Draymond Green really have a point here when he's talking about the relationship between ownership and players in the league and how it needs to change? And quite frankly, is there even a way for people like Draymond Green to overcome those things by actually being an owner one day, or putting together a pool of African-American businessmen or celebrities, whatever you want to call it, that have money to help change that narrative in the league? Is there any hope for that? And does Draymond Green really have a point?
Seeing that we're in Black History Month, man, I'm just reminded of the story of how Bob Johnson actually was able to acquire the Charlotte Hornets. And he went in, he had his meeting with David Stern in the NBA, had all his ducks in a row, and they put him on pause. He had the highest bid. They put him on pause because they want to give Larry Bird an opportunity to put his group together to make a pitch at the last minute. Because the league, honestly, I don't know if they weren't ready for a minority owner, or they just didn't want a minority owner. Either way, Bob Johnson had to come back in with force and say, look, you said this is a business. Let's handle this like businessmen. I'm ready. I got the most money. Let's make it happen. And they finally pushed it through. And he was the one that sold the team to Michael Jordan. And I'm glad that he had the foresight to say, if I'm going to sell, I'm going to give it to another minority, another African-American, so that we can have representation in this ownership box. And so when I think about that, I think about the mind of Draymond Green, which I love. Like he always talks about, people really don't understand or know how to talk about basketball because they don't know what they're looking at. And I think, when we talk about narratives, most fans automatically just side with the owners because there's like an ingrained jealousy of players because of the amount of money they make. So anytime a situation comes up, you'll hear most people say, well, man, they should be good. They're making millions. Like, what does that mean? It's like, yo, if they need to handle business, they need to handle business. It doesn't make a difference how much money they're making. Old guys in my neighborhood you tell me, stop counting me another man's pockets. Like, it's not my job to count another man's pocket. I don't care how much money he's making. I'm looking at the principle of the situation and whether or not it's right or wrong. So Draymond Green comes across as that type of dude. Like, forget all this money. We're just looking at this situation for what it is, and we just need to say whether or not it's right or whether or not it's wrong. And, he talked about James Harden, and he was honest enough to say, yo, everybody in the league know James Harden was on some BS his last days in Houston. We know that. But man, that man wanted out. You castrated him. But an owner can do something like they're doing with Andre Drummond and just publicly putting it out there like, we don't want him. He's cancerous. He's not in our future plans, and we're going to sit him. So it is a double standard. I appreciate him being able to speak up. He's going to get a lot of respect from a lot of youngsters around the league. I think guys that have been in the league already know what Draymond stands on player issues. I agree with him. On the flip side, players know. Players know it's a business, man. And they know what to expect. And most of the time, they know how owners view them. Like, I think Draymond was the player that made the push, I want to say 2 years ago, to get rid of the term owner. As far as, how you describe the people that own it, that actually reserve the right financially to be at the head of the organizations and the presidents of the organizations. So, and the chairman. So, man, look, we sit, y'all know, man, I'm trying not to get too deep into it, man. This is America. I'll just leave it at that, man. This is America. You can go watch the Childish Gambino video. And, it applies across the board. Like, this is America.
Yeah. There's still, there's still a growing amount of player empowerment too, though. To the point where, you're gonna get some shots fired at you, and it comes down to you having the thick enough skin to deal with it. Because if you're LeBron, if you're James Harden, if you're Kyrie Irving, you can if you're Anthony Davis, you can push yourself out of a situation you don't want to be in. You can make your money. It's just going to be about, can you handle the pushback? Can you handle the shots being fired in your direction? It's unfortunate that the owners don't have to go through that same gauntlet. But as you said, Shaun, this is sports. This is America. This is kind of just the way it is. You said something earlier, and I had an epiphany. You were talking about how, fans, we have this mentality where we always side with the owners, and because of maybe an ingrained jealousy, because we're not them. We're not making the amount of money they are. Then I had an epiphany, like, wait, the owners are paying the players, so these guys actually have the tall money.
Right.
So that it doesn't even make sense when you break it down in that regard. Man, it's just a dog eat dog type of, world we live in, man. Getting it from both sides.
Yeah, I'm glad he had the guts to say it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he never holds his tongue. I give him that, man.
Yeah, I don't always agree with what Draymond said, and honestly, I think I approached it less from whether he's right or wrong perspective, and what this is going to mean for the future. I think the fact that he was able to say this means that we know Draymond speaks his mind, but we haven't seen or heard anybody on the Players Association come out and say anything tempering his words. So I think something like this is going to come up in the next collective bargaining if it hasn't already. And this is another thing with the NBA. I thought immediately there's a guy on YouTube named Andrew Varga who does these really specific baseball videos. It'll be like switch hitters grounding out from both sides of the plate in the same game. And he had one that was players getting traded. It was just players getting traded. And it was clips from games of guys who got traded in the middle of a game, at the July 31st trade deadline, and just like the reaction and the commentators talking about it. And as soon as I was watching it out, that's all I could think about, because that happens in the MLB every single season. They're like, hey, such and such is getting pulled out of the field, or such and such is starting on the bench, or you see the manager talking to him. So because the talk has been there for weeks. If a team goes like 15 and 35 in those first 50 games, the best players getting traded, and everybody knows it. They know it, and they're just going out and playing unless they dog it. And you really don't see guys dog it in those other leagues because the union isn't strong enough.
Right.
The union has never been that strong in MLB, because in the NFL even is just kind of gaining steam in the last 20, 25 years. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Shaun. Like the last 25 years, 30 years maybe, that the NFLPA has actually gotten more leverage.
Yeah, the strongest, historically speaking, the strongest was probably MLB. And then I think the NBA has kind of like snuck up on MLB, and made it a closer race. But of course, you see the money being made in Major League Baseball. So that union, man, and that we owe all of that, Kurt Flood, flowers, my brother.
Kurt Flood.
The union and everything that flowed for every baseball player today, we tip the cap to you, man, and to your legacy. But yeah, you're right. The NFL is really just trying to, get his footing and trying to catch up. We won't even talk about the NHL. They top to bottom, Gary Bettman, the executive owner side to the player side, they need to do some work. But yeah, you're right. You're right, Chris.
And I think
it's just going to be something that comes up. I apologize. I just wanted to get this last one thing in, because
no, go ahead.
You can't really compare of everyday jobs. I was trying to do that, so the only I could think of was to compare it to other sports, and it's weird because it's something that we accept just because you have to have. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where you don't have players traded for something, and so in that way, players are players, right? Players are human beings, but this is a market, so the players are commodities like orange juice or gold and silver. That's why the trade value column that Simmons wrote every year was highly read and sought after, because it's the best way that we had to measure what a player was worth outside of the statistics. What would they be traded for hypothetically? So it's weird that I had a hard time saying whether he was right or wrong because of that fact. I'm not siding with the owners. I really am not. It's just hard for me to imagine trades not happening in the game. And for what he's saying, you would have to eliminate that from sports, from basketball first, from National Basketball Association first, or no trade clauses would have to be in nearly everybody's contract, and you will see the league burn before that happens.
Yeah, I think if anything, this is why we give superstar talents, especially in the NBA, their flowers now, because of the fact that they've been pushing for these things. The Chris Pauls, the Kyrie Irvings, the LeBron James, the outspoken ones that worked with these player unions that fight for that type of equality, to where you let the owners know, like, okay, we understand it's a business, but at the same time, give us the same respect that we deserve as you're doing the business. So if you know you're going to get rid of us, or you're going to trade us, don't make a deal right before a game and we about to play. Or find different ways to handle your business, but give us the respect that we deserve as you're handling the business. I think they understand it's a business league, and I think the players like Draymond Green is not denying that. I think he's just saying that we don't want any more Harrison Barnes moments where you're literally in the middle of a game playing, and then you hear your name being called and you being traded, and you have to leave the middle of a game. Or Andre Drummond's about to suit up, and it's like, oh no, by the way, you're not going to suit up anymore because we're about to trade you. If anything, Detroit gave Blake Griffin a nice plug by saying, you know what, we're not even going to have you dressed up. You ain't got to come to no more games. We'll just sit you down until we actually figure out on the back end what to do with these teams between you and your agent, because we understand the circumstance. I think that's what Draymond Green is getting at, and we all know Draymond. He's a hyped guy, loudmouth guy. So people are always going to target Draymond as he's the loudmouth guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about because of the controversy that comes with his name at times. But at the end of the day, if you really dissect what he's saying, he's just saying, we know it's a business, but be respectful with the business, because as a player, they don't have to, as the owner, it's not like they have to move their families. It's not like they have to constantly be on the road 24/7. Like at least have some sympathy and respect with the game and what we're trying to and what we're doing for them. Because at the end of the day, the NBA players are putting money in their pockets too. It's not just the arenas and TV deals and stuff. NBA players have to make this revenue go too. They help this machine run. So I think if anything, we have to give those flowers to the players that have actually fought for those things, like the Draymonds, like the Kyrie Irvings, like the Chris Pauls, LeBron James, etc. We got to give them their flowers, because if they didn't fight for that, now you're really talking about maybe going to an NFL-esque type of operation, and the NBA wouldn't even be where it is today. So I think if anything, we should really give them their flowers while they're in their primes of this game, because they've really pushed the equality narrative a long way from, a long way compared to these other leagues.
I will say this, man. You can't knock the hustle. Like, to be an owner in any professional league is not easy. Like, what you have to have in liquidity and assets, and you're not doing it by yourself. The majority of the time, you're part of a group of other minority owners to make it happen. But that's not easy, man. Like, most guys have hustled, started businesses, owned businesses for 20, 30 years, and put themselves in positions to be able to acquire that particular organization. And once you get to that height, I don't know if I expect them to have a lot of respect or to view their subordinates or people that work for their company and treat them with the same respect that they treat themselves or would treat other owners. I guess I asked the question, are we expecting too much? Like, man, the dude that's running the neighborhood, does he really respect the corner boys? Like, when he comes around, he shows love in certain ways. But when he's up in his condo downtown, while they're freezing on a corner on the south side on the 7 triple trade at 2 a.m, like, dude, does he really respect them at the end of the day? Does he treat them like he treats his man that's right next to him? So it's like, when you get to a certain point in the organization, I know what Draymond's asking for. I'm not saying he's wrong. All I'm saying is, are we expecting too much from the owners? Just knowing the way that business is run, are we expecting too much from the owners? Because there's really nothing to make them change the way they operate. Like, that's the sad part about what Draymond said. Like, there's nothing, no drop anchor point that's going to make ownership say, okay, we have to change the way we're moving because it's bad for business. Like, what they've been doing is not bad for business. And if they're okay lessening the market for themselves by publicly going out and saying, we don't want this guy, like, by saying we don't want a guy, that means you lessen what teams are going to give you. Like, you did that on your own. And if you're willing to do that, then I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, we're expecting too much. Like I said, it's a consumer capitalist system.
Yeah.
And yeah, when the whole switch to governors owners, I was kind of mad about that because there was nothing but a name change for the same thing. You just put some tape on the locker and put another name on it. They're still owners. They still own the team. The only thing the things that they don't own are the stadium that the taxpayers pay for. Let's not forget about that.
Right.
How the citizens of Chicago are probably still paying off New Comiskey Park. Yeah, we're not going to see anything. We're not going to see anything different. It's kind of like the Robin Hood, GameStop, AMC thing.
Yeah.
As soon as people start to upset the system in a meaningful way, the system busts back because there's so much weight behind the system that's in place that there's so many people at the top benefiting off of that system that do not want to relinquish that power. The power, a lot of people say that money is the power. Use the power against the other people. I would really like to destroy the system that creates the power so it can be redistributed. And obviously that y'all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
We're talking about capitalism and redistributing, but it's not going to happen. It's like the Packers don't have necessarily an ownership group. When I read about that, I was so blown. And I was like, this would be great. And then I just read something else that said the NFL would never, ever, ever allow that to happen with any other team ever again. You're not going to, the dream always people kind of talk about off the cuff. If we got like 30 or 40 people who could put down however so much money, just a substantial amount of money, there were fans, we could buy the team. It ain't going to happen, man. No. It's not going to happen because that's not who the leagues and the system that's in place wanting to own these teams. And they don't want players to have too much power because then the idea is why would they come and do this if they had this much stake in it or this much power in it. I would love to see it. I would love to see there be a system like some other small companies or larger companies where the employees own a high stake in the corporation, but just not gonna see it happen.
And Chris, man, let me jump. Chris, yo, man, this is like a whole other podcast. What you talking?
I know
right now, bro. Real talk, because like you can't be part of that system that's set up and not sell out. Like real talk, you know what I'm saying? So if Jay-Z really aspires to be an NFL owner, I see why he made the move he made. Like, I see it. Like, and put himself in position to catch all hell from Black Twitter. You know what I'm saying? In connection to Colin Kaepernick. But in playing the long game and getting inside the club and building the relationship, and the NFL saying, okay, we appreciate you taking this one for us. And down the line, maybe. Like he's about the only one I can see that's really in position to be able to make a move like that. But what he had to do to even get in that position, like someone asked me, would I ever run for political office one time? And I said, no, I can't do it. Right? Because I work in ministry as well, and I'm gonna be real. I know how politicians work. I'm taking the briefcase. I'm being real with you. And I don't want to bring that into the other side of what I do from a ministry standpoint. It's like when somebody walks in the office, like, yo, I need this property. Here's $75,000. I'm at that moment, I don't even want it to be, well, man, I got God, my beliefs, and then I got this $75,000 that's business. Because, yo, to be honest, I don't know. And I'm being real. It's some people that might say I'm not doing it. Okay, good for you. I'm a businessman. You know what I'm saying? So that's 75, like, okay, I'm not touching it. Have my assistant take it out the office. Here, you can have this city property for $1. Do what you want to do with it. But I mean, like you said, Chris, that's the game that's set up. That's capitalism. It's set up, and if you're going to operate and be successful in it, man, you have to sell your soul. You have to sell your soul at some point if you're going to be playing at that level, on the big boy level. It's no dude. That's why they had dirt on each other. Because they've all sold their soul to get to where they are, man. Man, that's a whole nother podcast, man. I'm gonna have you on my podcast just to talk about that. Real talk.
I'm with it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I just wish that eventually down the line you could see more African American owners in these type of realms that can help alleviate some of these issues that players currently have. And one of the ways I really do wish happens is in the WNBA, where you can expand the WNBA and have NBA players or former NBA players that played in these professional leagues give back to own these different teams and really change that narrative. If you can't do it at the bigger stage, you can pretty much do it at the second level or whatever level it is to help create that change and at least change the narrative. Show that sign that, yeah, you can do the same thing. It's not just a lot of, rich white folks running the show. Yeah. We can do the same thing here too. And for the NBA to have one black owner, you can change that narrative by putting a lot of black ownership in the WNBA, which is the sibling league of the NBA. You be turning a lot of heads if you're doing it that way.
Yeah.
So that being said, also support women's sports.
Definitely. Sorry for the sneeze.
Most definitely. Most definitely. We're gonna round off this conversation with some U of I talk. Shaun, I know you're a big U of I guy, and man, Ayo that's a bad boy right there, man. Ayo, that's a bad boy right there.
I recently saw a mock draft that had Ayo going like 28th, and I wanted to kick the computer off the desk. Right, because I saw all of these like college players that were like freshmen, one and done in front of him. The teams are like below 500. And I'm like, and then I said to myself, you know what? NBA GMs are smarter than this. They know, and I think the opportunity for him to shine and postseason play was taken from him last year because the same thing that he's doing in the clutch situations this season, he did it last season. You know what I'm saying? The game-winning shot against Michigan, the game-winning shot against Michigan State, against Illinois, sealing it. I mean, that's just who he is. And him being from Chicago, of course, is like a shield that we all wear, for cats from Chicago, and we rep and we love guys from the hometown. But when I first saw him in Morgan Park and the buzz about him, I was like, okay, and that's my alma mater. So it's kind of like, okay, all right. And then he gets to his junior year and they win the state championship without him. And I'm like, oh no, cuz like, yo. But then they come back, they win again his senior year, and he gets invited to the 17 and under trials for Team USA. And I'm like, dude, there's no way he's making like this is like Jason Tatum. It's that squad, like Jason Tatum and whoever else was on that squad. And I'm like, nah, the kid goes into the camp and ends up like in the starting lineup. Like, so he's just a competitor, dude. It's like whatever he has to do to win, like he has that. So for me, it's like whatever team he goes to in the league, he's gonna rise to the top. Like he doesn't care. Whatever he has to do, he guards the best player on the other team. He leads you in assists. He's second in rebounding. and his understanding of the game. If you just watch the recent game against Northwestern, he had 5 points with 8 minutes left, but he had only taken 5 shots. But he had 9 rebounds and 6 assists. You know what I'm saying? And then they cut it to 1 with 3 minutes left. And the next 3 possessions, it's a wrap. Over. I'm ending this. And I'm going to laugh at you walking down the court. You know? Just a special kid, man. Really special kid. Brad Underwood has done a really good job. The pandemic probably gave, the program another year, because it's quite possible that Ayo and Kofi both go into their names into the draft if they would have had a chance to go through the normal process. But, the pandemic hits and they come back to school for another year. And, we get this glorious season with them being at number 5 and having a slight outside chance of getting a number 1 seed. But Michigan is so far out in front. And the only matchup they had with Michigan was canceled due to the COVID-19 problems Michigan had over the previous 2 weeks. And they just came back to play against Wisconsin and got a big victory. So we won't see Michigan probably into the Big Ten tournament, which I'm mad was moved from Chicago down to Indianapolis. I was looking forward to that. I was looking forward to attending that as a part of the media. But, hopefully they can match up with Michigan and beat them and maybe get, a number 1 seed. But at worst, they should be a number 2 seed. Really good team. They have an outside shot of getting to the Final Four and possibly competing for the national championship.
Shaun, a couple questions. So what's the knock on Ayo right now? Why do these mock drafts have him so low? And some people don't like this question, but if you were trying to compare him to somebody who has not seen him play specifically, who would you most liken his game to?
Oof. I'm going to save the comparison because somebody popped in my mind, but I'm going to say the comparison. But I will give you this. His handle was always the thing that bothered me. Terrence Tomlin and Eugene, they cover high school basketball like no one else for the bigs. So they would be at the games with me and we would talk. And Gino was always like, he has to improve his handle. He has to improve his handle. He has to improve that mid-range game. And that's exactly what he went to work and did. So going to the next level, the handle has to get even better because he has an incredible quick first step. And it's not that he's not athletic, but he's not super athletic. So he has to make that transition as well. Like, okay, it's easy for me because I'm a legit 6'5", long arm. So it's easy for me to get my shot off in college. But, when I go to the league and I have somebody 6'7", 6'8" guarding me that's just as quick as me, like, how do I get this mid-range shot off? How do I get to the cup? And if you see, he has a lot of different finishes at the rim. He has like that real quick finish off the wrong foot. Then he has the left hand finish. And then, we've seen him go up and dunk on a couple of guys this season too. So that's been encouraging. So for me, it's greater than, what he has going into the league because I know he's going to put in the work. That's what you see from the kid. From the time he stepped into Morgan Park with all the buzz and to where he is now, he's put in the work. I think he needs to improve the consistency on his three-point shot a little bit more. He's gotten a lot better at that. But, looking at his track record, sky's the limit for the kid. And I'm not saying he projects to be like a superstar in the NBA or anything like that. But I think he's going to surprise. I think he creeps into the back end of the lottery. I think once teams get him in, especially if he's able to show what we've seen in March Madness, and he takes Illinois to the Elite Eight or something like that, and is spectacular at the end of a couple of games and closes games out, and then they get him in, and you see the man.
Like a D Wade type run with Marquette.
Go watch his interview post game Northwestern. That's all I have to say. Man, look, and I don't, dude. This kid is quality. I'm talking about quality. When you look at him, you're like, yo, that's a kid that I would love to be the face of my NBA franchise. Just go look at the way he handles the media, the way he answers the questions, the closer he is. He's heartless. He wants to take your heart. You know, and I dare not mention names like Kobe and MJ, but I'm just saying that's just the type of mindset he has. That he wants to kill you. Like when it's time to take you out of your misery, cut your neck off, cut your head off at the neck, that's what he wants to do. And, you know, you get that along with the work ethic. Yo, like I said, the sky's the limit. I don't know why that happened at 28 and 30. I don't know. I guess because the NBA loves potential, right? I mean, that's why Pat Williams went number 4. Potential. So, finished product or potential? What do you want? You know, take an organization like San Antonio. They love finished products. They love kids that have been in college 2-3 years that they can develop, you know. So a team like that will see Ayo and say, yo, we'll sit and work with him for a year or 2 years. You know, then next thing you look at Keldon Johnson, what he's doing for San Antonio. Like, yo, you would have thought he disappeared after he came out of Kentucky. But they sat him on the side for about a year, let him learn, let him get some burn in the G League. They put him in that San Antonio developmental system, and look at him now, starting and playing well. You know, so that's, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yeah, that's real, and that's what I was going to highlight. Just the fact that, yeah, unfortunately, we obviously think Ayo is a higher draft prospect than where he's currently at, but that could really play a benefit to him based because, you know, some of the top tier best organizations, especially from a development perspective, are in those later rounds.
Yeah,
so depending on where he lands, if that is the case, his career can really excel to another level and can really give him that longevity that he really rightfully deserves, combined with the talent, his skill set, and his work ethic that he has. That could really help him take that trajectory to another level if he falls in the right organization that's willing to work with him and develop him, like the Denver Nuggets or you know, things of that sort that are in the, like you said, the Spurs, teams that are really known for developing quality talent, no matter where in the draft they are. They just they know how to scout talent and develop it to the level where their production is more than what they brought, pretty much more than what they paid for. So,
and he said something interesting the other night. He was asked a question. He was like, "I'm a point guard," and that just messed me up. He was like, "Man, I'm a point guard. That's what I've been playing my whole life." He was like, "I play the positions I play for this team." He said, "But the majority of the time, the ball's in my hands and I'm in pick and roll. I might not be at the point guard position, but I'm a point guard." So in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is what this kid sees himself as on the next level. Like he sees himself as a point guard, you know, and that's, you know, I'm not saying, you know, he can match up with Dame, but he's a problem at that size. You look at the way he works the pick and roll, he's a problem coming into the league because he's going to have space to work. So go ahead and let him slip out of the lottery. and let one of these playoff teams get an asset like that. Right. The league is, man, sometimes they just totally miss it. Like, you're just going to let them slip out of the lottery? Okay. Go right ahead.
No doubt.
Like you said, mock drafts love potential. So you can only go you can only take you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? I am not a student of the draft. I am not one of the guys who does all the research. Shout out to Sam Vicente, any of those guys. But because there's just so much to go over, I just know the little bit that I know. The cats have been talking about this Ayo kid since he came out of Morgan Park, and he's got Illinois ranked number 5. That's all I need to know.
That's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know, baby.
Dude, this is not hyperbole. This is not hyperbole. You're talking to a kid that has followed Illinois basketball forever. He's the best player to ever come out of Illinois.
Bruh.
When it's all said and done,
Damn.
I'm telling you, you have to go back and look at. We had this discussion. Ryan Baker was the first one. I have to give him credit. Ryan Baker, who was with that 1989 team,
Yeah, sure was
on the sidelines as a GA. He was the first one to say, yo, we need to start the discussion of whether or not this kid is the best player to ever come out of Illinois. Wow. Not the best NBA talent, not the best NBA prospect. I'm talking about the best career at Illinois. Like, for 3 years, like, yo, you got to look at that. Wow. Like, you honestly have to look at it. Go look at his records. Go look at the records he holds. And name a closer. Name a better closer in Illinois history.
I want to go just because that was my best time. I loved Frank Williams so much.
I rock with Frank.
And then Darren Williams after that, but it's tough for me because I gotta bone up. I haven't seen that many games in the past couple seasons that Ayo's been on the team. I've just read the stories and heard about it. So you know, these are the guys that are jumping out in my memory. But
his ascension is very similar to D. Will's because D. Will his freshman year didn't have a jumper, was a true point guard. Then that second year, I think he breaks his jaw early in the year. He comes back later in the year. I think they upset Cincinnati and eventually lose to Duke in a Sweet 16. And then they come back the next year. They're a top 5 team. They go on that run. They make it to the Final Four. And all of a sudden, D. Will is a lottery pick. And that's kind of the same trajectory Ayo has had. He comes in with the buzz. You know, he's good. He's starting. But you can see his game is very raw, just like Darren was. Then all of a sudden, you start to see this kid closing games, hitting big shots in the middle of last year. Illinois creeps into the top 10, but they don't have a chance to go into the tournament. Like D. Will had his second year to get his team to the Sweet 16. I think Illinois would have made it to the Sweet 16 last year. And now this year, you see him getting even better. I think he's going to be in the lottery. I just think his career, at the end of the day, his numbers will look better at Illinois than Darren's did. That's just my opinion. And Brian Baker put it out there, and I was like, yo, I still think he closes games better than Frank. That's just me. That's just my opinion. And I love Frank Dub. The Peoria connection that was him and Marcus Griffin. But yo, this cat Ayo, he's exceeding my expectations.
Yeah, he's doing U of I proud for sure. You know, making us a top 5 team overall in the college basketball ranks, and you know he's making he really helped put U of I back on that map since Bruce Weber's departure to that Final Four experience. So we definitely got to give Ayo and that whole program as a whole, especially right now, their flowers while they lag, because you never know how long they're gonna keep this up. So we definitely got to give them their flowers for sure.
Well, Ayo leaves, and then they have another Morgan Park point guard.
Yeah,
that's takes the reins next year. So when you need basketball help, you come to the South Side, 1744 West Pryor. You can come get you a good anchor for your basketball program. Gotta show love to my Mustang family out there.
The pipeline.
For
sure, man. Morgan Park definitely has some top tier talent that came up there and did it in the college ranks, for sure.
We got one more. That's a sophomore.
Saying,
2 years from now. He'll be eating cheeseburgers with Ronald at the All-American game. You heard it here first.
Oh man, most definitely, man. Most definitely. We're gonna wrap this thing up. I don't know what the heck just happened to Chris. Chris has dropped off. But yeah, man.
I got to jet out of here too, fellas, man.
Yeah, most
It's
definitely, man. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, man, for coming on, giving us your expertise, man. We really appreciate it. Love to have you come back for sure.
Anytime, man. I love y'all, man. Anytime y'all need me for anything, hit me up.
Most definitely, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Sean.
And everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of Running with WARR. Because as you can see, we be balling.
Hey,
we be balling on these episodes, man. We be getting all types of action going on and giving you all the latest inside the sports realm. And of course, follow everything WARR Media and We Are Regal Radio. We got a lot of great stuff coming your way. You talking to, two people right now who are doing it, who are doing big things for the site. You got Drew in the Chicago Exchange and this maestro-ness of the pen in every way, shape, or form with his column writings and with the In the Scope podcast taking place on Friday. Be on the lookout.
Yes, sir.
Right, look out. Craig Hodge just stopped by this past week to talk all things NBA and politics. So he did not take things lightly. He brought the heat. He brought the heat. So it's definitely something you don't want to miss. And to all the WARR Media family, shout out to Kyle, doing great things as the co-founder and founder of this establishment, doing this thing. Mm-hmm. Normally he'd be hosting the show. Normally he would be hosting this show, but he decided to take himself a little vacation one time for the one time. So
a little low
big dog.
Low management for the boss.
Right. So that being said, man, stay in touch with what we're doing. You see the social media tags on the front page, man. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Regal Radio, YouTube, WARR Anchor, you name it. We out here. And be easy. There you are.
My internet dropped, man. It's been going in and out all day with the snow, man. F the snow.
It's all right.
The snow is officially the ops.
Man, it's all right, man. We was just doing our final shout outs and goodbyes anyway. So of course we was shouting out, Drew and what we doing, everything. But for sure, we can't forget about you, C Breezy. You out here bringing all the heat. With your expertise and going in depth and analytics. You got like that. So we thank you for your expertise as well, man. We gotta, like I mentioned before, Craig Hodges came on In the Scope this week, dropping tomorrow, talking NBA and politics. So it's gonna be a big episode. Yeah, definitely don't want to miss that. And like I said, Drew is the maestro over here with the pen. So, every time he come out with something with Chicago Exchange and his other columns, that heat is there. It's like Rick Ross. She fell in love with the pen, started effing the ink.
Woo!
Woo! Rick Ross with the bars. That being said, man, everybody continue to follow WARR Media. The hashtags and the social media tags on the front pages, man. Follow us. We're all doing great stuff out here. And we'll be back with another Running with WARR episode next week. Until then, as the boss says, keep bouncing.